Wow, what an incredible musician he is.
Yeah, Norman for me he was kind of the one who really congealed flat picking guitar for me. It was like, okay, this is a cool thing. Um, yeah, there's a very cool crossover aspect, like you were mentioning. And there's, again, kind of in the similar with the Doc Watson for me, the way he delivers his vocals and stuff, it's very accessible. And, um, yeah, it's very clear.
Clear,
Yeah.
clear. Yeah, like ringing a bell.
And, yeah, I mean, he has a whole language of his own in the way he approaches the bluegrass licks and stuff. And he's, from my understanding, kind of more of an introverted person. He never really went out, was never a big star. He was always semi behind the scenes, but he's always been producing music. I actually think he has a new record coming out pretty soon. And it's like, yeah, there's just something very cool and connectable about his whole approach. He's also very traditionalist. He doesn't use electric tuners at all. He's very against electric tuners and has a whole way that he teaches people to tune.
I don't either. I don't use them either. I have the guitar player give me a G with his tuner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he tunes his G, then he tunes his D accordingly. Then he tunes the B string to the D, so it's a little sharper.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a very
Right, a real
specific
third.
way. It's kind of becoming this lost art on how to tune a guitar, and people like Tony Rice and Norman Blake. That's part of the thing that sounds so good is the way they tuned their instrument.
Yeah, that's a really important point. And when I was doing a little research on Norman, I came across that tuning lesson.
Yeah, exactly. I just came across that.
Yeah, and it's incredible. Yeah, he does this whole thing about how you do it, and you read it and you go, okay, if you want to learn how to tune a guitar, this is the guy to listen to. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, take it serious. It's not a joke. It's like it's real, you know?
Yeah.
He's onto something. It's because the third is pure. It's not an out-of-tuned third.
But I think as Stash is saying, his influence is tremendous and in a low-key kind of way. It's like when you start looking into, I mean, just those credits I just mentioned, from...
Well, he wrote the tune.
I mean, from Johnny Cash for years playing mandolin, like whatever instrument you need, he'll play. One of those kind of guys. To
Well, if Cash wants you in the band for years, I mean, you're definitely in the family, right? That's what that is.
oh yeah, for sure, and getting that incredible road experience and just playing tons of gigs and but he just keeps popping up like on the John Hartford album Steam Powered Airplane, where John Hartford was kind of blending the kind of hippie 60s aesthetic with these old traditional guys like Tut Taylor and then there's Norman Blake there right with him and so Tony Rice didn't do a lot of duet guitar albums, but there's a guy who could sit there right next to Tony Rice and not give an inch in terms of bringing the duet equality to what they were doing, and the mutual respect is so clear on those records. And so I think he's a good fitting end to our little journey here through bluegrass guitar, because he bridges into those new worlds of modern bluegrass guitar up to this day. As Stash mentioned, he's still relevant, and so that kind of concludes our show, our podcast here. So Stash, tell us a little about your new release that just came out and kind of what you got planned next.
Yeah, so April 30th, 2021, I put out an album, Stash Wyslouch Plays and Sings Bluegrass, Volume 2. It's all bluegrass standards, save for 2 tunes. And it was just my interpretation, trying to put a different spin on some of my favorite tunes from the classics. Jimmy Martin, Flatt and Scruggs, Stanley Brothers, Bill Monroe. And it wasn't too much of a pre-planned thing. It was kind of more of a go-with-the-flow type of arrangements, but the general idea was maybe we don't always have to take solos off of the exact form that's already prescribed, maybe we can go and do some tangents. And I think the album is a pretty good representation of that. And in terms of what's going on next for me, I've just moved to the Bay Area.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm planning on doing a bunch of solo gigs and doing some solo touring. At a certain point in the future, I'll get the Stash Band back together when it's financially and practically feasible. Also with COVID, it's a little weird. But yeah, for now, I'm just having a good time getting to know the bluegrass scene in the Bay Area, which I'm finding out is very rich with great stuff going on and meeting people like you.
Yeah, I think you're going to find some fun things to do here. And yeah, we'll have to talk more about some of the venues over here on my side of town that you might want to check out. But before you go, I do want to ask one thing about those arrangements. And a lot of it is written out, right? I mean, you are playing these very intricate lines with the fiddle player. And so what's kind of your process in creating those? Because I guess it's a combination of improvisational sections, but also, very, very detailed arrangements of those instrumental sections or interludes or, tangents, as you call them. So what are you kind of doing there? How are you creating those arrangements?
Yeah, so the initial creation of the arrangements is pretty intuitive in terms of it could be something I'm kind of singing. So, for example, my walking shoes don't fit me anymore. Okay, cool. I sang that one little thing. Then I go back with the scalpel. I try to figure out, well, what exactly was I doing there when I was quote unquote in the flow, in the moment. And that's when, maybe I transcribe something I sang like that, for example. Put it on paper, then you structure it. Okay, what can we do with that little tangent that we went? Maybe we could extend that in a compositional way. And then beyond that, it was kind of trying things out with the band. Sometimes they'd play the melodies with me. Sometimes it would just kind of be the beginning of an improvisation, for example. And then a lot of trial and error after that. Okay, is this too far gone? Maybe we need to bring it back to a regular chorus again.
But you're not writing it down with notation paper. It sounds like you guys are still doing it by ear, even though it's technical to the point of needing notation paper if it's using 12-tone stuff. I mean, when I watch you play the 12-tone expansion ideas and then the drummers doing those kind of ultra polyrhythms, there's a way to teach all that orally, but it does sound complex to the point of it being written out.
Yeah, it depends. We didn't have a lot of time to record it. A lot of the stuff actually did end up getting written out because everybody in the band is great at reading too.
Oh, cool. Nice.
But they all have incredible ears, and if we'd had a little more time, no doubt I would have preferred to do it orally, like Thelonious Monk style or something.
Well, everybody plays it better. Yeah, people play it better when it's oral because it's real. But if you got to write it out, it's fine.
Absolutely.
And one final question. We talked a lot about some of the jazz influences and things. What about classical music? Is that informing any of these kind of avant-garde ideas?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I love all classical music. 20th century people I like a lot. Messiaen has always been a big influence.
Oh, yeah.
And I always thought listening to his music, even though he was, the most schooled out of anybody in a lot of ways, there's a very playful, intuitive approach when I'm listening to the stuff he wrote. You kind of get the sensation that he's kind of like, yeah, let's put a little splash of this here, a little splash of this there. Yeah, that kind of works, And I always appreciate those kind, or like Charles Ives, for sure,
Yeah.
And so absolutely.
Yeah, man, we're cut from the same cloth. This is great to hear this. This is so fantastic. I was working on early Schoenberg all day today. The pre-12-tone stuff, the songs. I was trying to apply it to. I was going to record piano with me playing saxophone, doing early Schoenberg stuff. And in one of your videos, you talk about, and it's readily apparent in your writing, those edits that you were talking about, Ethan. Those inserts that he does. he's readily using 12-tone techniques where you're using tone row ideas that are based off of Turkey in the Straw, and then you take that and you expand it 12-tone style. And then it also sounds like, I'm not sure if it's coming from Stravinsky, but it does sound like I played a little bit of your music for my wife, and she's not a super schooled musician, but she is knowledgeable. And right away she goes, sounds like Frank Zappa.
Totally.
And I know what she meant. It was because of those kind of rhythms that you put in there too. Yeah. It's like 7/4 if you really wanted to analyze it. It's super complicated and hard. It's better off just sing it. It'll be easier.
Exactly.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and those kind of runs might be a little more. The notation was pretty poor there, and so sometimes it ended up kind of going more oral, anyways.
Yeah. I mean, Zappa was a virtuoso with that. Yeah.
I love those early Schoenberg piano pieces. Actually, more than the 12-tone stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's cool when you go in and you just see there's like these little 3-note cells, and he's just like messing with them. You're like, oh man, it's all there.
Yeah, I put the harmony on all, and Messiaen's like that too, where it seems like, and Varese, it seems like the music's more in service of the sound, and less in service of the concept.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I like the idea of Stockhausen a lot, but sometimes it's like,
yeah, what am I listening to? You know.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, I didn't think when we were going to do our show about Mother Maybelle Carter that we'd end up with Stockhausen, but
I know, isn't this great? This is where we want this show to go, you know, where the unbelievable connections between things. Yeah.
Yeah, and absolutely, and we'll wrap up the show here with a cut from your new album, Stash, so everyone can hear what we're talking about. So we'll lead out with that. And thanks so much for joining the podcast.
Thanks, Stash. Stay in touch, man. That was great. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. This has been a serious blast.
And we'll have to come up with new ideas for shows in the future. Door is wide open if there's...
And wait a minute. I saw a track with him doing super fast Spanish stuff. What the hell? That was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my novelty thing. I'll sing in Spanish sometimes.
Dude, but that was good though. It wasn't just like throwaway novelty. That was real deal. That was super cool.
Thanks. My mom's Colombian. I'm half Colombian.
Oh, land of great music and food.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. Well, Stash, I'm sure we're going to be seeing you again at some point here because you're one of the brothers, man. we have real fun. And
thanks for coming on our show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, and I look forward to listening to the show more.
All right, guys.
All right.
This is the Virtuosity Podcast with our special guest, Stash Wyslouch. And you can find us on Spotify, on YouTube, and check out the Patreon page. And we'll be seeing you again with our next show in a couple weeks. And bon voyage to everybody. We'll see you soon.
All right, see you.
Ciao, ciao.